booties for black girl nerds.
Thank you so much. I'm Jeandra from Black Girl Nerds. Thank you guys for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The, the pleasure is mine. This story, I thought a lot about my own experiences as a Black woman, of microaggressions and all the type of things that happen to us as Black people, Black women over the course of the film, beginning with you, Cleo. When you step into a character like this and all acting is drawn from some type of personal experience, studies, etc. Was it more important to you to lean into negative experience per se, or look at the role from a kind of like an omnipotent, all-knowing type of perspective to sort of shape who Vanessa is?
Well, I would say I had the benefit of working with a script that was incredibly nuanced and a character that was incredibly nuanced. I don't think any character in this film is 100% good or 100% bad, as no one is in the world. Of course, I've had my experiences that I draw from. And yes, negative experiences do happen, but I think it's what you learn from them that matters. And I'm just grateful as an artist that I have an outlet for my experiences. So for me, it always ends up being positive.
Mm-hmm. Elan, for you, I think of, when I looked at you, I think of like my own family and some who are more corporate, military, whatever their choice of occupation in life and how it affects their greater life and their greater experience. The same thing for you. Is it more of a greater experience or zeroing into specific moments in time to create who James is?
Oh man, I think it's definitely always going to be a combination of both. I don't know how I would sort of parcel out what it was, but I was just looking at how I related to the character, sort of what emotions that I could relate to. And I think through the lens of compassion, I was able to see that he was just very fearful, so he had this public persona that he was displaying, this mask that he felt that he had to wear. And, we all can wear masks at times. And that was for me the thing that I related to the most, is just being like, okay, why is this man wearing a mask? And how is and once that mask is taken away, what happens? And in his case, it can consume you. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. I like how you said that, a lens of compassion, because oftentimes Black people are tasked with expressing that instead of leaning into our own experiences. It's more of, well, that happened in the past. And, some things happen to us that are very, very present. Cleo, back over to you. Is it difficult for Vanessa to have a lens of compassion in any capacity for any of the characters that are around her?
I think that Vanessa does struggle to have compassion for herself, and in doing so struggles to have compassion for others. She's someone that is quite tightly wound and hasn't dealt with any of her stuff. Mm-hmm. She would rather present an idea that she's completely fine until it explodes into a dramatic explosion. So yeah, I mean, she's a human being. Of course she has compassion. She has compassion for the tragedy that she saw on the news, and she has compassion for her people, and she loves her husband. But she's someone who has not dealt with her issues, and we're seeing the results of that.
For Elan, back over to you for James. It's like watching him walk sort of a tightrope of, being, maintaining a household and a happy life, maintaining this corporate image, not being too much, not being too little. It's a very treacherous road he has to walk every single day. What was your perspective of his road as a whole once you read the script from beginning to end?
Oh man, I was just trying to find out when he's the most honest. And when I was looking at that, it didn't occur to me. It occurred to me that he's the most honest after all of these things unfolded. I think that maybe like a lot of us, if he had spent more time sort of not distancing himself from the truths deep down inside him, this day potentially would have been completely avoided because he would maybe have had a backbone to stand up to certain elements that we see him go through in the movie. So yeah, once again, it's that dance. He's playing so many different roles without ever really paying attention to the most important role, which is the role with himself and his truths. And instead of dancing around the lies, confronting those things. And I think we can all learn. I for sure can learn from that. And I did learn from that by playing him or allowing myself to be, to be a vessel for him. And I think the audience can definitely learn from that. What are the things that we should pay more attention to, and how are we allowing ourselves to be distracted from that?
Mm-hmm. There is a great level of tension throughout the whole film, from the minute we meet Vanessa and James all the way through the end. For Cleo, for you, how did you like unwind yourself from that once everything was all done? Because it's really like, oh, it's very, very tense from beginning to end.
Well, we had a particularly unique experience in that we started this film in 2020. We stopped filming for COVID. We came back a year later and finished it. And I think we all went through a lot in that period. And I was really grateful to have an outlet for it. But like you said, there is this tension when you're playing a character. It does affect you, of course. I have a dog. I cuddle him. I meditate. I just try to keep it chill. And I let it all out on that set.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, Elon, for you, clearly you work out. That's very clear. But what is the unwinding? What's the unwinding for you for taking yourself out of this?
It's that I think during COVID, I quit acting maybe like 6 times, and I was like, why am I and all of these things? So like, and coming back to it, I realized it's such a great outlet. We have something at our hands that requires us to look in the mirror and do the things that has saved my life. If James was going to acting class, once again, I don't know if he would be having the same issues that we see him having. Same thing with Vanessa. So I'm just grateful that I was able to find it and, acting, that is. But yeah, I mean, we put down this role and then COVID happened and we all had like this awakening. So then to pick it up was honestly one of the hardest things that I could ever have done. Like I was talking to Mo, like, I don't know, bro, I'm going to do it, of course. But it just seemed it was hard to like fit in that suit again. But once I was there, because of what I experienced as far as my own personal growth, I was able to have more compassion for James in the long run. And I think it fleshed the character out a little bit. So it's always interesting how those things work. But yeah, I said a lot there, but yeah.
No, that's awesome. I thank you for the insight, and I thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you as well. I appreciate it. Before we talk about the movie itself, what intrigued me with talking with Elon and with Cleo earlier is the fact that you all had to stop production in the middle of COVID and then resume production once there were clearances in place. And Elon spoke of how he gained some insight and different things that he brought into the portrayal of his character of James. As the co-writer, as someone heavily invested in the project, how did that time between shooting affect you, and what changed for you when you were able to resume?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you. I think everyone was tremendously impacted during that period. Arguably, I say collectively, that's probably one of the most impactful moments of our lives. Like, as everyone that survived through the pandemic, that was the first time that we collectively shared an experience all throughout the world for the most part. Every major metropolis was affected by it. There were the shutdowns and all those things. And then here in particular, there was so much unrest because of the things that were happening with the law enforcement. So after having time kind of trapped inside because of the quarantine and things of that nature, I think it was such a moment of reflection. And for artists, times of reflection are incredibly important because it's not about output all the time, it's about input, like what we were receiving. And then coming out of that, I think we all had a heightened sense of gratitude for the opportunity to have the communal experience of making a film, a heightened sense of purpose with all these things that were happening in the world, and just understanding that art is the way, art is the light. And this film was shining a lot of light on a lot of interesting things, kind of getting into some of those cracks and crevices that we don't normally peer into. So that time down just afforded us a lot of opportunity for insight to pour back into the work. And then for me as the director, I was given a unique opportunity in that I was able to make my first film twice. So I started shooting it, came back, got to sit with it, watch it, critique my work, and then go back with these new things that I had learned from the first portion of the shoot, in addition to all the things that were happening in the world.
It's almost like, I mean, these obviously things were happening before the George Floyd incident. Did it give you kind of like a cathartic, like an aha, like, you know, where did you, how do you balance it? I'm not sure how to phrase it, but it's fascinating that you were already making a film about this exact thing. And then it happens again. And then now you resume with carrying those emotions of watching it in real life, watching it on screen, protecting your actors. Did your role as a director, how did it grow beyond the usual scope as a director? Because now you have a mixed cast of talent who's also watching this in real time.
I think you used a really interesting word when you talk about being a protector. And I am a strong and firm believer that being in a position as a director, you are facilitating and protecting the hearts and the skills of a band of artisans. And so with that band of artisans I definitely felt a responsibility to try to create a space for us to all work through all these things that we were feeling and experiencing, and then hoping that on the other side of it, this film can lead to the kind of conversations that hopefully prevent things that happened with George Floyd, things like what just happened in Memphis, unfortunately, where you're seeing people's humanity not being given the respect it deserves. I think there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of misunderstanding in terms of the way people are interacting with each other in the world. And so in our film, with all these volatile concepts and emotions and thoughts, I wanted to try to create a scenario for all parties involved to feel safe, to really immerse themselves in that, so that the audience can see themselves and see the pitfalls of those points of view, and how at the end of the day, we all kind of just need to extend each other a little grace. I think that'd be the key to it.
It's the key to everything. They are giving me the wrap. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful premiere, and I hope it invokes some great conversations.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting. I've seen you guys like covering the film and things I've been doing through the years, and I really appreciate it. Like truly, truly, I'm excited that you guys are using your platform to amplify what I'm doing, and everyone involved to go see the film this weekend and buy it and go see it in the theater and go and talk about it on Twitter and all that stuff, complain or love, whatever it is you feel like, just encourage people to engage. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The pleasure is ours. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerds.